Advanced philosophy memes. We have made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Advanced philosophy memes. We have made good memes. Advanced philosophy memes. Base fucking memes. Shoutouts to Andreas, Deacon, Boy Scott, Pedro, and everyone else that engages on my posts. And Sarah, keep it up, man. You'll get there someday. And everyone else from Great Memes.
Dude, what's up?
What up?
So I know you were talking a second ago. You're saying like you for those who follow Terrorist, Chris is working at that dojo, swinging swords around as he does, and you become like one of the more responsible human beings. I know you like make that face like, come on, me, but no, you're like a super responsible. They like put you in charge of things, like they made you be responsible for other people, basically, right? Like, and that's what happens when you run a dojo.
Yeah, and it's also, I think you run out of seniors, because life happens, and it's just with any interest, right? You're like, oh, I'm sorry, I have kids now, or I'm moving away to start a new job or to start a new career,
or dying. Like the senior thing is real. Like there's so many old people that are just like, you know what, I can't, because like people like young fathers would work and exhaust themselves and make sure their kids ate instead of them, but at a certain point they're like old and they're dying, like there's at a certain point someone has to pick up the slack, right?
Yeah.
And like they're making flashback episodes about our generation now, like way back in the early 2000s kind of things you were saying.
Oh yeah, for sure. And what's really uncomfortable for me is that the seniors, it's not like I was like super young with my teachers. It's like I was like 10 years younger than them, not too much. So they could see like the skill gap like closing, and I could see it in there. We don't talk about it because it's just like not really a fun topic of conversation in the dojo. But yeah, when you see it closing in, it's like, this is what made me like understand like the reality of what people think they are versus like how they actually are. Because you can't really lie in a sword fight. Like you're either better than the guy or you're not. And after beating a few seniors, it becomes apparent. It's like, all right, he knows his stuff. So who else better to teach the juniors than a senior who knows their stuff?
How old were you? How long have you been studying sword fighting and being in the dojo?
In this particular school, I started in, all right, so it was like 2017, and I was just looking for a sword school, and I found two.
Wow, so like almost 10 years, like 8.
Yeah, and I found two that I really liked. One was teaching Toyama-ryu, which is like a more modern style. The other one was teaching Yagyu Shinkagari, which is an ancient style. And I liked them both, and I just kept doing both for as long as possible until I just had to focus on one because of teaching and all that. But
you started out, you were sorry, but you were already, you said they were like 10 years older than you. So basically you're almost at the age they were when you met them, when they were seniors, when you first met them.
Yeah, and it's also, some of them have been doing it for like a lot longer, and they would tell me it's like shit, when I was your age, I wasn't that good. And, I'm sure they're just saying like, just keep going, like don't waste it. So.
Yeah, but also like, it might also be true for a couple of reasons. One, like maybe you have a knack for it. Maybe you're more disciplined or focused. Maybe you have less distraction or something like that. Maybe it means more to you because less means less to you.
I mean, at first, yeah, that's important, the discipline and all that stuff. But like, I look at the students that I train with, and they're like such better people than me in a lot of regards. Like they make way more money than me, doing way more important jobs. They'll like, some of them are doctors and shit. So I think it's more, I think, yeah, to like get the ball rolling, you need the discipline. But then after a certain while, like too much of that could hold you back. You know, like maybe you feel too responsible where you can't take certain risks to kind of like, you know, break your limits. And that's where it's like, once I got the discipline down, and I've already had that recklessness. So it's like, for me, it was just tempering something that was playing against me. And then I was able to like leverage it. Cause like, you know,
so, yeah.
yeah. Sorry, what are you saying?
No, you could first.
I was just saying, it's like when it comes to the more advanced shit, like they'll tell me, it's like, oh, I'm scared to try it. And then I just straight up tell them, I'm like, what's the worst that could happen? You die? Oh, well, we all die. And that's the kind of thing that like they're met with that new truth, that piece of reality. And they're like, oh, I never looked at it like that, but it's fucking true. And that's a spiritual thing, right? It's like, can you come to terms with your death? Because the sooner you do that, the sooner you could try out all the advanced, like fun stuff.
Some things aren't meant to last. See, we need to start doing that. Just using the title in the episode, like the way they do with the movies, where you're watching a movie like Vanilla Sky or something like that.
Yeah.
Not they say Vanilla Sky in their movie, but okay. So you were saying though, also at the beginning before this, that things are changing. Also, like you're getting better, you're taking over more responsibilities, but also they're getting older. Some of them are gonna be too old to do anything, but also some of them are just like becoming like parents and stuff like that, right? Like isn't your something like that you're saying, like you're
yeah. And because of like observing all my training mates, like their progression and how like they kind of fall off or fall on or whatever, I always look at it as like, it made me really think about everyone's motivation for training in martial arts. Everyone has a different reason, and to me they're all valid. Like some people just want to get stronger, some people just want to get good at something, some people just want to hurt people. And to me, I'm like, whatever, your reasons are your own. But when I discovered my personal reason was just practice, to me, practice was the goal. And then I shared that with like everyone else. I asked them, it's like, what's your reason, you know, for training? And they were very different answers, but no one told me like just practice. And that's when I realized like I was onto something that most practitioners of things in general don't really understand. It's like, forget the outcome, just love the process, you know, like about being the best. Yes, winning is nice. Yes, ranking up is nice, but none of that happens unless you just diligently show up to practice like every single time. And that is a goal to me, just the practice. Everything else could come great, but if I just show up to practice, then I'm getting what I want out of it.
Yeah. And so a lot of these people, like you said, they're doctors or something like that. So this isn't like the focus of their life. You know, they're not like making it that they're not there. But for you, it's like you're gonna be, I mean, this is it's kind of a small, I don't know how small it is, but kind of a niche. Like I think this kind of like ancient sword fighting thing isn't studied by billions of people. So there's not that many people that are keeping it alive. Certainly not that many people are teaching it. Not that many masters or whatever.
Compared to like
seniors.
kendo or like fencing, yeah.
Yeah, so like you're keeping it alive, or you're going to be part of the thing that keeps it propelled into the future, you know, in a sense.
Yeah.
Does that screw you up because you're like trying to be humble, but you're like, actually, like I kind of have to be?
No, I mean, I don't feel like I have to be humble. It's just I can't unlearn the fact that it's bigger than me. This shit has been around long before me, and ideally it's going to be around long after me. So I'm just like one small piece of the whole line, you know?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Like no matter how good I get, that's always going to be the truth, you know?
Yeah, and do you think that, I mean, because like you were saying that they felt, some of the people, seniors, think you were better than they were, but you're saying some of the kids that are under you might be better than you are. Do you think that's just inevitable? Do you think that this is one of those things that gets like progresses over time? People get better at it? I
hope so. I mean, it's like, you know, when you see people who are like naturals at something, that's usually few and far between. But I always tell people, because like there's this whole ego thing. It's like it's more so an exploration of like how you are yourself, like when it comes to hardship and uncomfortable truths and all that, limitations. But you know, certain seniors would feel like peeves when they get beat up by like a rookie. You know, they're like, oh, this guy, like I lost from him. Whereas for me, I get excited, you know, because I would see that and I would be like, all right, this is like finding a junked out, clapped out sports car with a V8 in it with so much potential. And it's like, I could build this up to be a fucking monster. So, you know, like that's how I feel about it. And like, that's kind of how I feel would help progress it. If anything, I'll just cultivate techniques for people who bother to show up, you know? I feel like Phil from Hercules, you know, like in that Disney movie. Yeah. It's like, you got the stuff, kid. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it feels like things go up and down. So there's like times where there's a progress to thing like there's, I mean, like the Olympics, right? Like people get faster, run higher, jump further, those things happen. But I don't know, like after you get rid of steroids or something, or maybe there's like less meaning because people are so obsessed with video. It seems like there's going to be a point where we're not hitting these goals anymore. I think they cut and changed a lot of the Olympic standards for vaulting and jumping and
Okay.
things since the 80s, right?
You know what? I'll tell you something interesting that you're gonna like. So in our sword style, we go by the Dan system, like first degree, second degree, third degree, all the way. It's supposed to be all the way up to 12. But for a lot of styles, like all the people who could qualify for that level, they died out. So like the top level ranks would eventually go extinct. So there is no 12th Dan. There is no 11th or 10th. Like the highest would be 9th because the ancient times are long gone and there's no one to like be able to qualify that.
Dang. Yeah, so that's kind of. Do you think that that'll ever come back again? Because like things fall, things decline, but things rise again. Do you think that there's? Are we going to get to a point? I mean, and sometimes if people just practice forever and you get to a point, maybe that would return. And I don't know. Do you think so or not really?
The trouble is, it's like it's really hard to like gauge the full transmission of their ability. Like if you wanted to take a sword fight to its logical conclusion, you get two guys, give them swords, and say, all right, let's see which one doesn't die. And that's really at the end of the day what it's supposed to be. We can't do that. So unless we could figure out a way to like bring that level of competition back, which is like life or death, like I don't think it's possible. Which I'm okay with. For me, it's about the inner cultivation and shit. I like that. But it is nice being good at something. I'm not gonna lie. Like it feels cool.
Yeah, no. So like, I mean, that's another thing. Like even with humility, taking pride in work and in discipline and in practice, that seems pretty healthy, right? Like that's like ecclesiastical to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah, but it's like because it's weird if it's like swordsmanship, because like it's one of those things where the better you get, it's like the deeper you go, the bigger the hole gets. And it's like I could do this for 8 years or 80 years and there'll still be like more shit to learn. So it's like it feels more like you know, like a never-ending kind of journey.
I
Until
mean,
you
but
die.
we live in a time where like social media and everything, it's kind of like the Roman god worship period, or like the emperor cult of personality period, right? Like, how many followers do you have? It's very similar to like how many people come to your temple, and your temple is like maybe a virtual shrine to you. But it used to be that people died and we'd have shrines to our family to like keep the honor of the things that they did. But
Mhm.
that's, I'm seeing like that fall apart. Like in Japan, even people move to the city and abandon their family akiyas that are filled with their family shrines, and people are just forgetting. They're forgetting their like the work that went into getting to the point where they could exist, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I guess
Value.
it's just trying to bring back the value of ancestry, right? Like do you really appreciate your ancestors? And I think I've talked about this before when I was like, suppose you take something as simple as like reincarnation. Well, it's not simple, but if you take it as fact and you look at what a family line is and the dynamics of reincarnation, they really are like the transit system for our souls. And you may not deify your ancestors, but you have to at least acknowledge, like, in this system, your own family line is going to come with a shit ton of baggage, and it's really up to the latest iteration to like deal with that. I may not have asked for my family curses or generational curses, but it's up to me to like try to make them end with me. Like fill in the potholes, fill in the cracks. So we may not have to like deify it or honor it vertically, but I think it should be something to pay attention to, because it could like have real world impacts to your lifeline.
Yeah, I feel like people worship. I mean, again, with the cult of personality, so like people are worshiping themselves, which is something I noticed that you kind of like work against. You try to, work against, but you're doing work that's for the opposite purpose, at least, like to try to be part of a bigger thing that's like bigger than you. Like the breath is before you, the breath will be there after you exhale it. But that's what a lot of people are doing now, and they're not aware of the effort that goes into life. So we're no longer focusing on the past or the future and seeing our place in it. We're focusing so much more on, being the biggest Jupiter we can be, right? Like you just want to be this big gaseous cloud. I mean, people want to be this big gaseous cloud. And you know, we're also separated from ages. Like, it's cool that you've got seniors above you and juniors below you, because I think a lot of people hang out with people that are exactly the same age as them forever now. Like, it used to be, you go to a one-room schoolhouse, your kindergarten and 12th graders were all together to start with, right? With the lady who never left the town, who's your teacher. That was like, you can see what happened to the school teacher. Like, she didn't get out of the town. And like, that was cool for some people. And that was also a sign to others that they needed to leave. Yeah. But now it's like people are surrounded by kindergartners, and they're like, they find their place a little above or below each other. And then that just goes on forever. And I think we're going to see that more and more as people that are isolated. You know, women don't understand what's coming to them, like the wave, like the hill, whatever they call it, like
the wall.
You know, the wall. Yeah, when you're young and you're like, I'm beautiful, but then like when you're not young and beautiful, and people don't open doors for you. No, I mean, like, it's
I have a lot to say about this sort of stuff, but yeah, continue.
Well, this is true for women, but I mean that as an example for men also. You know, but
100%.
Yeah, go with where you were going first. You know,
I was just gonna say, interject with you. It sounds like you're describing atomization, right?
I mean, elaborate, but like, how so? Like monadicism, or what do you mean?
Atomization, as in like, it's becoming less communal, and we're becoming like less of a greater thing, and more so just like very separated and isolated components, a part of a machine, as opposed to a living body of something.
That's for sure. Yeah, I mean, like,
we're working together, but we're still sterilely separated, you know?
Well, we're more and more, it's like the military plan of need to know. So it used to be that you put people together. Someone just said hive. I don't know. Hive is different. I think hive would actually be better almost, because a hive is aware of all the parts of the hive. You know, the queen and the drones are all part of the hive together. But atomization, it's more that we're becoming on a need to know basis. Like, the military went from we have all the greatest minds, let's put them together and have them all sort of, you know, feed off each other's information, to we have to be very careful about who has this information. We should make sure that only this information goes to only the people that need to know it. So we'll have this group know how to build an engine, but we won't make sure that they don't know what the engine's for. And then this group's going to know what all the parts are for, like, but they're not going to know how to make the wings, or how to make the plane, or how to make the engine. They're just going to know that if you have them, you can assemble them. There's assemblers, right? But they can't know the little intricate part. And this seems to me like we're headed towards a kind of a plateau of excellence, because if we're not able to know how important all these things are together, to know each part of it, then at some point it's all going to collapse. You know, if you're not able to have we need to have specialization to a degree that allows for accelerating quality or efficiency, but that also comes at a cost at holistic epistemology, knowing how these things go together.
It's interesting because what you were describing sounds a lot like cooking, right? You have like a stove with like multiple stovetops, and then you have different pots, different pans doing different things. Like, see, they both may have like sesame oil, but they have different amounts of sesame oil, and they're not just going to be all made in one pot. You have to like prepare things separately and put it together. I think that's why they call it stovetopping, right? In like the military industrial complex with reverse engineering alien technology, they're like, it's on a need to know basis. We're not going to give one guy a fucking ship anymore. We're just going to break it up and give the different guys the different ships, different stovetops.
Yeah, I mean, it feels. I've been thinking about this with Boeing, especially because Boeing's doing this a lot, where there's no seniors anymore. Like, some things are not meant to last. Those people that used to know how a plane was put together, they're done. They're retired. They're old, you know, or dead. And so then now it's like people that make engines, you know, or there's people that know about carbon material. You know, there's people that know about how plastics are made, or they don't understand how to press metal or something. But like, this specialization. So
yeah, there's this YouTuber. He does like mental jujitsu. I don't know how to describe him, but his name is Danko. Did you ever hear of him?
Danko.
He says Dankoe, and he has these great arguments about why, like, in this modern world, generalists are winning out over the specialists. The specialists were like the kings of their lands, and the king could really only see his own lands. He couldn't really like traverse. It was the pirates, the sailors, the generalists that were able to like control the flow of information between different kingdoms, control the trade routes, control the trade. So yeah, I really like that argument because honestly, like I didn't mean to, but I ended up becoming that kind of generalist where I just learned shit as the need arose. You know, like I had to somehow get around getting taxed too much money. So let's learn how to start an LLC. Let's learn how to start a business. Let's learn how to pick an accountant. You know, like all that boring shit just turned into like an avenue for learning.
That's true. A lot of generalists pride themselves on being generalists, and they're kind of downplayed in every industry. But you know, special effects, filmmaking, etc., video games, being a generalist is kind of the more important job you can be right now, because who knows if the particular skill that someone specializes in will be useful in one project to the next, let alone in 10 years or 5, right?
I mean, what do you call a generalist with like a lot of resources and money? You just call them a producer or an executive producer, you know?
Better to be a Swiss Army knife, LOL, master of none. That was the next thing, is like, do you become a jack of all trades or a master of one? Like a jack of all trades, a master of none.
I used to think that way, but not anymore, because I think like if you truly find mastery in one thing, you could find mastery in everything. Like it's like that Musashi quote, like if you find the way in one thing, you see the way in all things. And that was one of those things I would read. I'll be like, what the fuck does that mean? But then after like, you know, after you get good enough at something, you realize that transfers over and synthesizes with whatever you're trying to learn. Like I use this example of a high school football kid. Like if he's really good at football and then he gets a construction job, it's like, yo, how many yards is this? And it's like, I don't know, about 100 yards. Why do you say that? I don't know. It's like less than half a football field. These things do kind of carry over, like no matter what it is. You just have to like really ingrain it in you.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder about that too, because there are definitely people, are we just being propagandized to then that we're not supposed to be generalists? Because that was taught to me, and I loved being a generalist, and they kept saying, don't do that. You know, I remember trying to spend too much time in school learning too many things so that I would understand. I mean, I remember one time I was in nanotechnology, and they had us writing at the beginning of the 101 course what our major was, and I just wrote alchemy, because at a certain point, that is generalism, is that you're going to try to figure out how all of these things go together. But they kind of push that, hey, you're going to not be able to be narrow in your field. And I remember thinking at the time, all these people are so different than me because they're so narrow in their field. And I don't know, maybe we need to have a relationship with people that are narrow in their field. But I don't think the progress that's been, it's hard to explain. I mean, there is progress being made in the sciences today, but it seems less than the progress that was being made in the 60s and 70s when people were generalists. It seems like that was a time when more innovation happened, because like you said, you can apply some knowledge or some sort of logic system to another scenario. So if you know how to do one thing and you're like, hey, this is like that other thing, you know, I mean, how 3D printing, right? Stereolithography. This is because we understood what lithography was. This is something that comes from already existing technology. Then that goes from scaling. So you've got people doing this for micro scale or nanoscale, and then mega scale, something that, you know, you can 3D print houses with and make new materials. So everything, and so
as above, so below. Mining,
as above, so below.
Yeah.
That upsets people here, but you know,
I don't know. It's all good.
I mean, it's kind of funny because a lot of people will say, "Oh, that's satanic," but again, isn't that kind of keeping people from understanding the cosmic order of everything? Is that there are divine natural laws and there are protocols that are followed on all scales?
I mean, at least people are considering it. If I could make it like fortune cookie shit on that level, then at least it's normalized, which is cool.
Okay.
But yeah, as far as specialization versus generalization, I think when we were going to school, like much younger, we weren't living in like such a stark reality in our faces where it's like, if you're a specialist, you're playing a losing game. Like if you're trying to like bank your whole livelihood on being a specialist in something, you're probably going to fucking lose, because now you have all these systems working against you with like AI becoming more refined. It's like, how are you gonna live in a world where something is just going to be 10 times the specialist you are? It might as well be the generalist, you know?
Yeah, you have to be able to use these. I mean, that's the thing. Originally, they were trying to train everyone so that only a few of them could be the generalists who knew how to put all these pieces together, trying to keep people from knowing how all the pieces go together. So we do need to be, I mean, if we need to escape that paradigm, everyone needs to be able to be the master of the specialists, the master. I mean, this is kind of the master of none in and of itself.
I mean, if there, you could argue that if there's one, if you're gonna be the generalist consciously, if there's one thing you should probably get good at, is dealing with people in crowds, dealing with people one-on-one, dealing with kids, dealing with old people, just dealing with people. If you could get good at dealing with people, then you will be like a really good generalist, you know, because then you could approach people. You could literally approach specialists and tell them, hey, buddy, let me give you money just so I could watch you do your thing. Like they'll do it, you know, like why not?
Is deciding to be a surgeon at 6 not a great plan, says Jay? I wanted to be an astronaut, right? Like, or president, right? What did you want to be when you were 6?
When I was 6, I think I wanted to be a pilot, but I had like really bad eyesight. I still do, so that was like out of the picture. I was off the menu.
I mean, being a pilot as a job, or just like being able to fly? Because you could still like learn how to fly.
Just being able to fly, and I probably could still learn how to fly. But when I was a kid, I was always told like, oh yeah, what you do has to align with like what makes you money. So, yeah. But you know,
you
now
a courier. Bringing people
now I just
products.
Smuggling drugs, like flying from South America.
It's a living. I don't know. We were talking a second ago about flashbacks too, like at the beginning of this idea. What show were you watching? It was talking about like
it's actually not a good show, but it's called Motorheads, and I saw it on Amazon Prime. And it's funny because the show takes place in 2025, but they say like 17 years ago when the parents were teenagers, and it's like 20 years, like it was like the year 2008, you know, so it's not like the 80s or anything. God. So like in the flashbacks, it's like you hear, I fly like paper, get high like planes. And I was like, no.
Yeah, and flashbacks to 2008 is scary, man. That's true.
And these fucking parents, it's like, that's me? That's supposed to be me? Like 17 years ago, I was like 17. What the fuck?
Dude, that's scary. Yeah. So, I mean, this happens to everybody. And I remember thinking like the 80s seemed pretty cool when they were doing this in the 2000s, flashbacks to the 80s. But do you feel like well represented? Like, do you think that people understand is the flashback authentic? Do you feel like this is what it was really like in 2008 to an extent?
I have no idea because the show takes place in a part of America that I'm just not privy to at that era. But apparently kids back then were really into street racing. And apparently even now in those areas, like near racetracks, like if you ever see like a Kentucky racetrack or like in those kinds of towns, apparently street racing is a big thing. And what I liked is this idea of history repeating itself, like with like blood feuds and grudges. And that's cool. I
did know a lot of street racers, maybe before, like from 2001 until 2007 or 8, like, and there were a lot of street racers all over the world. In Croatia, I had cousins that were street racers. People in Southern California for sure were street racing. I mean, Fast and the Furious, right? No, is that the one? Is it Fast and Furious with which is the racing?
Fast and Furious.
It is, right? And they've got like nitrous in the cars and everything like that. Yeah. I don't think that was just a show. I think that was pretty accurate. There were a lot of people that were both involved with street racing, and that scene was associated with, you know, truck robberies. That was pretty real, particularly in Southern California and the Southwest, right?
I mean, it's one of those things. Like if I were to watch a sword movie, I would be like, most people would be like, that's pretty realistic. And I would look at it and I'll be like, oh, come on. You know, like, are you kidding me? And then they'll pick out all sorts of bullshit. So like a car guy would watch that movie, and like the first race, they would be like, wait a minute. So something's wrong with the manifold, and then suddenly your floorboard just flies off and starts shooting up sparks. Like, clearly. Or it's like they open up a Supra and then they're like, oh, a 2JZ, no shit. I'm like, what else is supposed to be in there? You know, it's like,
yeah, like there's the dramatic details are bull, but at the same time, the idea of street racing, I mean, I knew a lot of people that were, there were a lot of people I knew that would love to, they would work on their cars. They had nitrous. I had one of my cousins was a police officer in Croatia back before it was part of the EU, and they would race, and he would put on his police siren lights in his car, and they would race on like cliffs, Like it would be 2 car, and there's constantly people dying all the time. And yeah, to afford to do that, a big part of that was smuggling. I mean, people were smuggling what they could, but in America, it was like you could rob trucks, and then people would get. There wasn't cameras on everything yet. There wasn't high enough quality cameras in 2000 that really you could get away with that. Like the people had low resolution recordings of you in a mask.
Let me tell you something. Ironically enough, from the way you describe it, yeah, it's all true. But I think the problem with like street racing has gotten a billion times worse, because like now you got kids driving like 500 plus horsepower Hellcats like for content, or they're like crazy tricked out BMWs, and it's a problem. And the thing is, they really are going stupid fast, like 110 plus miles per hour easy on like local highways and shit, and like doing donuts in Times Square. All that is legit. It's just they do get into wrecks, but the problem is cars compared to like back in 2000,
they're safer now.
Yeah. So they could afford.
So many people I knew died. Yeah, like they were. I remember sitting one time. I was sitting at my house. Sorry to like say this.
No. Continue. Yeah.
I was like sleeping in the sunlight. I was trying to like relax, and it was super quiet because I live up in like the trees, basically like the redwood forest. So it's like a quiet area. But I heard this horrible screeching and then this smashing sound, and I was like, "Dang, that doesn't sound good." And then so down my hill, go down to the creek area. And there's like a major car accident. And it was like 4 kids who I went to high school with who completely smashed themselves out, and they were just gone. And it's like, there's been so many that was probably when I was like 16. There've been so many situations like that until I was probably like 25, I think. And then it started to like drop off. I didn't know too many people that were doing, getting in street accidents anymore. But for a long time, man, like people were dying from those, because like you get like a BMW 2002 or like a 435 or 451,
any M3 will get you killed back then.
Freaking little Fiat looking German Matchbox car, and it's super fast, but it's not a safe car to smash into a freaking tree,
Yeah.
But these days, like they've done so many crumple tests that I think a lot of people survive these accidents better than ever before. Like you get a Kia, and these kids with the Kia keys, the USB sticks, and their Kia keys, and like the things that they're doing now, like it's a video game.
Craziness.
Yeah. Like the Connecticut Kia keys kids, Kia key kids, man. There's way too many Ks in that sentence.
And that's definitely a problem. Like I see it just getting way worse. My personal relationship with cars, I discovered, I just like building them. Like I just like building something stupid and irresponsible, not necessarily trying to kill anyone. But these kids, like, they will go hard. They'll take like white lining to its extreme, where it's like they'll just lane split all day. It's like ridiculous. I don't know, too dangerous.
The 90s were pretty cool too. I like what Not Joking saying 2K to 2009. Have you seen that guy Buff Dude's YouTube channel? And he's got like videos about what it was like in different decades and stuff. He like lives a week as a different decade. This dude, Buff Dude's, 8 days ago, he put out this video, and I don't know his whole deal. I guess he's got like a gym workout tracker app or something like that. Like he seems like he's doing pretty well for himself, on like a normie level. But he's done some videos like, I tried to live a week as a 1950s man. I've tried to live a week as a 1980s man. And the only one I've seen so far, besides the 50s one, was I tried to living a week as a 1990s man. And it was really, slightly better than I expected, to be honest. Like he did a lot of research into the 90s. He went, and he's in Oregon, so it's like where the last Blockbuster video store is.
This is good content. He has like 30-minute edits of this shit. This is fucking tight.
It actually is pretty good content. Like I read, and it goes hard because he talks about what it was like. He vaguely remembers the 90s because he's like our age, so he saw Barney when he was in the 90s. But
same.
Yeah, I
Mighty
like
Morphin Power Rangers.
Power Rangers. I like top.
I liked McDonald's. The French fries were soggier back then, but I kind of liked it.
Actually, let's get to that in like a minute, because I want to talk about that'll come up. They're talking about food and ideology shifts in the 90s. Let's get back to that. But like, so just for a second, what he kind of talks about is like the differences of different ages in the 90s, because a lot of people who were in the 90s grew up in the 80s, right? And so you got an 80s crossover that really affects the 90s. But I don't know if he really expresses this. I think he kind of does, but it's something that I was thinking about recently as well about the 90s. Is just how much shifted I feel like there's a telescopic nature of evolution. And so you think about like a billion years of to like a micro, like billions of years to get to, I mean, I don't know if you believe in evolution, but like if you do, whatever, it's kind of a cool idea that it's getting faster. You know, I don't know if it's true or
Acceleration,
not.
singularity
Acceleration.
type. Yeah.
We're all, yeah, because okay, so if you start out with this idea that it took billions of years to get to a amoeba or something like that, and then it took hundreds of thousands of years to get to to like a Homo sapien or to some sort of like some sort of a mammalian thing, and then 10,000 years to get to like Homo sapien, maybe like 1,000 years to get to modern civil, or a few thousand years to get to modern civilization. It just goes faster and faster. Hundreds of years, 400 years to get to a scientific revolution, decades to get to a modern civilization with a modern culture, you could say. And then what, like 10 years, the 90s, from 1989 to 1999, 2001, that's just so much happened. More happened in the 1990s than happened in the rest of history combined. You know, like more evolution happened in the 1990s, more genetic modification, accelerationism. We're getting to that point where things are going to take weeks, then hours, then minutes, until you're going to get to a singularity, like you're saying, like an actual singularity where as soon as it's thought, it happens. And the rules of cold evolution are de-emphasized. Like the ideas of like survival and dying, or, you know, mammalian breeding, all these things are subject to de-emphasis, and emphasis is put on perfection of idea, right? So idealism becomes like the focus point in the 21st century.
It becomes a battle of ideas. We'll live in a psychic, magical world and all that jazz.
It's really happening already, and this is what this is. Like, what is this thing that we're doing right now? We're psychically talking to each other using the technology that was created in the 80s and 90s, but particularly the 90s, because you went, I mean, the internet, right? Like the internet to everyone having an iPhone or an iPod to an iPhone. I mean, basically, I guess 2007 is the iPhone, but still a cell phone, at least having a cell phone in your pocket, a computer in everyone's pocket. Like that happened really fast. And CGI, computer generated imagery, you know, the special effects, everything happened so freaking fast that it's hard to really explain to someone who's lived after the 90s that we're a completely different species living in a completely different world. Everything shifted. One of the things he brings up is like when you used to like meet somebody, you know, like you would like have to call them, you know, and like you'd have to like plan that you're going to call these people, like you're going to drive to the mall, you know, and like meet them at the mall. Like,
and if you're late, you're fucked. Like,
because like, and you know, and that's the other thing, like if your family splits up, you're like, well, where are we going to meet back? You're going to meet at the fountain, right? These are concepts that are so beyond what a human understands how to live with them. People in Africa who are raising cattle and live outside, they have cell phones now. They know how to contact and text each other and find the GPS coordinates now. There's not a human left. Well, we're not what we used to be before the 90s, right?
We're turning into digital crabs.
There's digital and analog.
Well, I was going to say, I really like this this YouTube guy. He's like an astral projector, supposedly, but he has this cool spiritual interpretation of like how when you see trends and things like in history moving in like circles and like faster and faster, that's a sign that as a species, like consciously, we've already experienced the whole gamut. Like collectively, we've experienced the whole gamut of human existence. Like we've had every iteration of experiences that humanity has to offer. So now it's time for us to like, I don't know, I guess either spiral up or spiral down. Who knows?
Yeah, like the BlackBerry before the iPhone. Remember when a Palm Pilot was just the kid in class who touched himself too often? You know, like things have really shifted. It's true.
Well, for me, when I was in my pivotal years, I think the big thing was the sidekick, because the sidekick was like truly it created the first digital degenerates. You know, just staring at a screen, clicking away.
Did you ever wear FUBU?
No.
Do you know what that was? For us, by us. It was like the black pants made by black people.
Yeah, I do. For FUBU.
I don't know why, but I wore black people's clothes. I wanted
That's
to wear
cool.
FUBU.
That's fine. I listen. No, ever since like all discussions like that are normalized since I heard Childish Gambino's stand up about like how he deified FUBU, and it's like you were somebody if you had some FUBU gear back in the day.
Nice. Yeah, it's the thing because like I think that's another thing is like the singularity was happening more because we already knew that anything was going to be possible. That was another thing about the 90s. I can think of like 100 examples where in a movie or a song someone says anything's possible because it's a 90s. I can do I'm a 90s girl, you know, like he's a 90s man. Like they can do whatever. Oh, they're 90s kids. It's like, oh, well, you know what? It's the 90s. Or, you know what? We should try something different because, you know, it's not the way it used to be. Now that it's the 90s. The 90s it just defined the end of limitation and it meant anything was possible immediately. You could just choose whatever you wanted to do. And now we're looking back at it. It's like, I see, Afrofuturism is like a page that I follow, and it shows
like
like
Wakanda.
hey, yeah, and they'll say, and I love Afrofuturism. It sounds cool, right? Already, just Afrofuturism sounds cool, but it's become so much more about exclusivism, because in the old days everything was so inclusive.
Keep
You're like,
them
hey,
out.
it didn't used to be like that though. It was like, hey, you know, there would be a future that is inclusive and it includes all things. So it would also include Afrofuturism. It would also include, you know, Latino futurism, probably, right? There's definitely some room for that in Andor, but originally it was all about, you know, Lando Calrissian, right? And Afrofuturism was like space run by black people. It sounded cool, but now they show you videos of famous black people from the 90s, like the first black punk rock musician, or this was the greatest black new wave band person. And it's like, you look back like, you know what? Like Fine Young Cannibals, right? Fine Young Cannibals is a band I loved a lot. She drives me crazy. And they're like, see, he was black. And I saw the videos as a kid.
Yeah.
I kind of didn't care. It wasn't really, there was zero, I mean, it was like zero impact on my life, the race of this person, right? And it's become so much more, the material matters so much more today than it did in the 90s. I feel like we didn't care about race nearly as much, like for real, you know?
I think it's the same feeling. It's like it's kind of a death rattle of something that used to matter and was supposed to matter, and it was very important that it mattered, and now it's becoming increasingly meaningless, because one of the biggest parts about having a cultural identity, like whether you're Asian, Black, Latino, whatever, is you could always point to the suffering that your people have endured not too long ago, and then be like, this is a huge part of my identity because generations later I still got to fucking deal with it, blah blah blah. But then once like our generations become increasingly more divorced from those things, eventually it's just going to be redundant. You know, eventually it's just going to be, oh, we're literally enslaving ourselves with the past memory of enslavement. And then that's, you know, I think it's like once we start collectively realizing that, a bunch of us are going to double down and be like, no, this is important. It is important over what my people went through. It is important that I carry on their pain, their trauma, their hatred. But eventually, you know, it's going to be pointless, you know?
I got to pull this up. That's crazy. 144 still Darklight, 50 freaking euros, which is, you know, it's a colorful bill of nice money over there. I think it's like $53 or $54. I don't know. I think it's slightly more. So thank you, bro. I'm gonna read your comment though, because thank you to the Xirtus crew, he says, and all of you here for keeping the conversation, brilliant questions going. Dude, I really appreciate that. That's that actually means a lot and will help will help my life. I mean, you know, if everyone gave $1, then you wouldn't have to do this. But like the fact that you did that, that's pretty base. I appreciate you keep me going. But let me also say that my friend Adam Krigler just made an episode recently. He interviewed Adam Coleman. I don't know if you've heard of Adam Coleman, who wrote this book, Black Victim, Black Victor, right? And it's kind of this whole thing about black guilt or white guilt or black victimhood, black victim to black victor, right? Mm-hmm, identifying the ideologies, behavioral patterns, and cultural norms that encourage a victimhood complex. I want to pop back to the 90s in a second, but like I just thought this is kind of an important thing to talk about. Is this idea? Well, I mean, what do you say about this? Because this isn't just about black people. This is about, I think, every kid in America who lives with their parents at 30 or something like that. You know, this. Well,
remember what I said? I was saying how important it is, stressing the importance of like fixing your family bullshit, because you can't expect your dad to do it. You can't expect your grandpa to do it. You have to do it. Like, you can't dump that on your kids either. That's messed up. So it has to end with you somehow, whether you choose not to have kids at all or just fix it, like fix your generational curses, which could be the trauma of slavery. Who knows? It could be anything.
Totally. And like, what does it mean to, I mean, maybe there's something valuable in victimhood where you recognize that no one can fix it for you. When you recognize that your parents aren't somehow the gods that are going to provide the miracles, and that they're, that they're failed at their dreams in a lot of ways too. And that they're old now, like that. It's like that Beowulf gets old and dies, it's like, one of the things that video games have shifted so much too. In the old days, like, Mario Brother is a game where you get on this endless cycle of dying and living and saving and losing princesses over and over again. The princess isn't really here, no matter how much the struggle goes. It's this samsara through the Naraka, where you're like in this reptilian hellscape underground, and through endless usage of mushrooms and psychedelics, right? Because he takes the star tablet and runs through walls and everything else. Eventually, he comes to the conclusion that he's found himself, not just found the princess, but found himself, right? And then this is what I think one of the first video games that is about happily ever after. Mm-hmm. And it's still, what's the happily ever after in Mario Brother? It's that you get to go back and play the game again, only it's harder now. So it's just very Shintoist in this idea of reincarnation, which is kind of still more Western though, because compare that to other games like Duck Hunt. Because Duck Hunt existed since the 60s. It was a projection-based game that Nintendo had.
Yeah, I remember.
Originally.
The light gun.
Yeah, and Duck Hunt, what's the ending for Duck Hunt?
I don't know.
I don't think there is one. It's just like you get to level 50 and eventually you die. It's just you keep playing Duck Hunt until it gets so hard and you get so tired that you die. C'est la vie. This is life, right? This is I think this is the truth that we used to experience, that your parents are playing Duck Hunt, that life is Duck Hunt, that you're constantly going to come up against this challenge that will eventually destroy you. It's cool for a while because you might not be destroyed right away. A lot of people are. How great is it for you that you can keep playing this game for 20 minutes or an hour or, however long you can stay in the arcade? Because that's the other thing, is an arcade experience before it was a personal game. You're putting in one quarter is giving you one chance, and you can use that chance as long as it takes you. But eventually you get destroyed and you're celebrated. You put your name there in 3 characters that show how far you got before you died, right? But it's all about dying. Yeah, death is the ending. There's no escaping it. It's all about the process, like you said earlier.
Yeah, I think it's a necessary component. And a lot of times, I mean, all right, I'll use games like that as a specific example. It could be a necessary launching point. Like if you were to describe the monomyth as kind of like a story circle, where the protagonist, all of us as individuals are in our own stories, you go to a certain point where you come through a mini recursive loop. It's either you make the decision to take the call to action, or you're just going to go right back to your comfortable little loop without really starting your journey. And if you get stuck playing a game like Duck Hunt or Tetris, then you're basically stuck in your small recursive loop until you have that one moment of death where you're like, all right, I'm kind of bored of this. Or it's like, all right, I'm the best at this. Now what? And I think that's like the moment you answer a call to action. Or maybe it's like, you lose your girlfriend and it's like, now you can't play this fucking game anymore. And you actually got to go do things with your life, like get a job and stuff like that. So, I mean, yeah, I think like if you make that the whole point, it's bad. You're just going to keep playing until you die. And it doesn't really seem like it means much. But in the meta narrative sense, it's like, it's an important starting point. You need like, those comfortable recursive loops as like a cradle until you outgrow it. Eventually you either bust out, from getting too big, or you just decide to crawl out of it.
Someone just asked if there's an ending to Pac-Man. Want some mo? Well, they're yes and no. So Pac-Man's one of those weird games where there's not like an intentional ending, it's an accidental ending. If you play Pac-Man until the 256th level, then eventually you get an overflow, a memory overflow, which causes half the screen to be filled with random symbols and become unbeatable. So basically, the material reality starts to dissolve around you. It's a kind of ascension point that happens.
Breaking the matrix.
Yeah. So there's definitely an ending, but it's not maybe it's not that you die, it's that the world around you dies, like in the Donnie Darko movie, kind of like that.
Yeah. For sure.
Also, we talked about the 90s, like without the internet, right? So like the internet we're saying like you can call your friends and everything like that, but also with the internet, you could look up anything at any time. Like right now, if you don't know something, who are you going to talk to about it? There's no compass. Back then you had to figure things out, and everything felt more valuable because of that. Any kind of information felt really valuable. You'd have friends based on what they knew, like they could provide information that their specialization made it possible for you to know things like that mattered so much more.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like a treasure hunt. To find out truth was like a treasure hunt. You couldn't, like, to get a movie, you'd have to go to Blockbuster, right? Like you couldn't just know something, you couldn't just see something at any point. It was such a big deal. Like your freedom came with being able to acquire knowledge.
Or to restore your dad's old Chevy, you had to actually buy books on like car restoration,
Totally.
carburetors, and all that shit. And the mechanic will be like, "You're on your own, kid. Good luck."
Yeah, like no holds bar. You're not going to be able to just Google it. I mean, it's hard to express how much that changed everything. Like the idea that information was so valuable. I mean, I don't know. I think about that a lot.
I think a lot of victimhood, especially nowadays, comes from just being unable to accept that. Being able to accept that you have so much ability to adopt self-efficacy. And like if you eat like shit, you could literally learn how to cook the simplest, healthiest dishes on YouTube. I had to go through this phase. Like when I was like forced to like just do everything on my own, I was like, oh, thank God for YouTube. Like people who wear GoPros while doing everything are doing God's work, like straight up.
Dude, I think maybe that's the time to bring up the food thing, because that's the other thing I was thinking about. So trust the science, I think, was related to fast food. I'm trying to explain this to a kid because someone was asking me, like, why did people eat this poison? Like what was the deal? 93% fat free, right? Like these crazy commercials that you kind of look back and you think, like, what were we thinking?
I have a theory. I think it's because adults like our parents back then were just coming out of like ages of like food insecurity or something like it. So it's like, once food abundance they get hit with that for the first time, they're like, yeah, we got to fatten our kids up, make sure they don't go hungry. And then before you know it, it's like, yo, we have way too much food.
I think it's related for sure. I think that's definitely part of it.
And also like with the industrialization of the food industry, I think it was like in the 1920s when food companies discovered how to use like bomb material or like some way to artificially fertilize the soil, which 10x'd our food yield. And we did it for so many years that eventually we have an influx of food. For these mega corporations to not keep us eating constantly, it makes them lose money. It's like a detrimental loss. Like we have to be just overfed. It's too much food.
Well, there's definitely, so you got to think about like pharmaceutical companies doing the same thing, right? Like, but food companies were definitely figuring out, can we make cardboard that tastes so good you'll eat? Can we get you to eat with certain chemicals? And the answer is yes. Like they can make you eat forever. They can get you to like a flavor so much that it doesn't matter what's in it. You will eat it, right?
Dude, I was told that when you open a bag of McDonald's, that smell of fresh, openly bagged McDonald's is like scientifically engineered to make you want to get it. I was like,
it is.
wow.
It's engineered, it's scientifically engineered. And that's the thing, is trust the science. Trust the science comes probably from these companies trying to sell their products. So you have military industrial complex that, like, Monsanto was making nerve gas agents and biochemical warfare because originally they were trying to make super soldiers. Mm-hmm. They made a steroid that was supposed to create super soldiers, and it was really poisonous and bad, but they figured out that by giving it to plants, it would cause the roots to grow so fast that it would destroy the root structure, which is why Roundup is used. It was originally designed to make super soldiers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
from super soldier serum to like weedicide.
Yeah, to pesticide, weedicide, to herbicide, and all these things. And also there's other issues with it, clearly. I don't know if we're supposed to talk about, but to sell those things, you have to market it. You get involved with fast food. Crocs, McDonald's was one of the major ones that showed, hey, we can have an efficient corporate fast food system. And people were coming out of maybe hunger, but a lot of people weren't. It was also just coming into this idea that we need to trust in science. Like 400 years of science started to show this alternative to witchcraft. It's like witchcraft and going to a midwife
a shaman.
a shaman, someone who can show you how to use, herbs picked at night or
Like a
garlic.
priest.
These kind of things where they didn't completely understand how to show you with a microscope what was happening, but they had centuries, maybe millennia of studies of people to know, hey, if you use this herb, it does this for you, right? And this is like kids today will say, why don't we just trust that? What happened with that? Because that's what we're going back to in the 2000s. Green and health and organic and all stuff, it's a return thing. It's return to tradition in certain ways, because we're saying, hey, we don't need all of these new things that we invented. We should go back to doing the thing the way it used to be. Well, why did we reject what was so popular? Well, at the time, we're saying, hey, education has created science. These scientists are studying education. They're being educated to create better science. Corporations, they're your friend, right? Because they're the American dream. They're these super beings that we've made that are studying the sciences and are producing products that they're selling, but they're selling them mainly to make money, to make new products that are better for you, because they know that that's our relationship with each other. You make something that saves my life, extends my life, extends either the quantity of my life or the quality of my life, right? And you're getting to a point where you trust in the science because they've added vitamins to your milk. They've
They built
added
entire industrial frameworks off of the established science. Like if you look at buildings, I mean, it's not the only way to keep a structure standing, but it's based on like years and years and years of doctrine where it's like these are living manifestations of mental frameworks,
trust the
solidified.
science.
Yeah.
Yeah, and trust the architects. It's speculative. It's Freemasonry, right? Masonry to build a building. Speculative Freemasonry. Trust in the speculative Freemasonry. This idea of this sort of ambient masonry of the mind, body, and soul. And so then McDonald's is an extension of that, but all of these companies are that they're making healthy. It was intuited that way, that these things weren't bad for you. I don't really think when I was little, I thought about McDonald's being poisonous or at least even junk food, bad for you, until the mid 90s. Like 1996, 1997, that we really started to say these things were bad for you. There were organic Californians. I was surrounded by them. This was a thing that was already starting to happen, but it was a small hippie. All these people were on drugs. You know what I mean? Like it was like these people smelled bad. They didn't have proper chemical deodorants, so you couldn't trust them. And so it took a long time for the society to shift around those ideas. Originally, we just trusted that these things were not just cheap, not just efficient, but they were good for you. Essentially, look at this huge giant burger that you're gonna get. It's delicious and it's got all the essential chemicals and vitamin
Additives
that you need to survive, and it's going to extend your life. That was the way I think we looked at Hot Pockets.
And you don't even have to buy the whole pitch. You just need to take one bite. Take one bite. It's like, listen, it might not look appealing, but just take a bite.
And it was like 20 cents. That was the other thing. Like to buy like a 10-cent taco at Taco Bell or a 20-cent hamburger on Hamburger Tuesday or Cheeseburger Monday. Or I mean, it was crazy. Like it was super cheap and it was no one thought of it. It was bad for you. And it's weird how much that's changed, that so quickly we've rejected. And I don't know if it's everyone, but it seems like by this point, everyone kind of knows that these things are bad for you. Even McDonald's has shifted their whole product line and what chemicals that they have in the food.
I mean, they bought Chipotle.
They know that people don't trust the science. That's dead now, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is it like, I guess the idea, what I see people doing a lot more these days is literally breaking things down and like looking at like these foods as literally the sum of their parts. Like instead of saying, oh, that's toxic, they're just like, that's like all sugar, right? Or like they'll see you get something and it's like, really, you're gonna eat that much carbs right now, like before we do this or whatever. Or you should carb up because we're about to get fucked up, so eat a sandwich or something. I've noticed that happening more with people, which I think is good.
It started for me when you started looking at the people eating the fast food. Like it started to filter out, and there were certain kinds of people weren't eating fast food anymore. There were athletic people that were starting to avoid it, and then the people that were eating KFC looked really unhealthy for a while. And I remember one time my dad wanted to go to Denny's, And then I said, let's not go to Denny's. It doesn't seem like a good idea. He's like, I want to go to Denny's. I'm like, let's go to like anything else than Denny's. There's all these new health places, that look, they have like salad bars and things like that.
They're just more expensive.
No, like they had salad bars in Santa Cruz that were like they weren't like Denny's was like probably about the same price as some of these places.
I mean, I was going to say, like, let's sing the praises of McDonald's, where they really did turn into like community hubs for poor people. And on top of that, like, let's say you're being chased by some pimp in Thailand, just run into a McDonald's. It's like a de facto US embassy,
True. I mean, I literally said verbatim that same thing, that McDonald's is the de facto US embassy this week.
It's true.
It's like there's a bathroom in there, no matter what. Like other countries, you have to pay to use a bathroom. I've seen now McDonald's that had a pay bathroom, and you have if you pay, you at least get that money as a receipt that you can put towards a McDonald's product. So
it's I was gonna say it's a sovereign American space.
And everywhere you go, I mean, it used to be also when Wi-Fi first happened that it was a major thing that you could get free Wi-Fi everywhere you wanted. It's less and less. Now people don't want to give you their Wi-Fi anymore. But McDonald's, I think, still offers free Wi-Fi at virtually every McDonald's I've ever been. It's a safe place to go if you don't have a cell phone card. You can go to use the internet at a McDonald's, and it's something that keeps people alive and keeps people safe. But I think easy calories for people that are dying younger, probably though, because I don't know.
That's true.
Not necessarily because of like people. Things have changed a lot about McDonald's. I think they are trying probably.
What do you get at McDonald's?
Oh, I don't really at this point, but I did go to McDonald's a while ago. I got a banana milkshake because in Europe they had a banana milkshake, and that was really exciting to me. This was last year though, and it's the first time I've been to McDonald's in many years. But except for I use their bathroom.
Every time I hit a McD's, I just get a McDouble and a McChicken. I take one bun off each and bash them together, and that's called a McGangbang. So if you're ever like really stoned in the future, just get a McGangbang, and you'll be like,
sound interesting.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people go to McDonald's or go to places that their father took them to, or that their family took them to. Like I would remember when I was young going to breakfast with my dad at McDonald's, and so I liked getting the sausage McMuffin when I was young.
Hell yeah.
And so
it was special because it was limited.
It was limited, certain amount of hours in a day. And, it was associated with my father. So it's tricked into something that you love because you have love for your family. I think that's a major way that they play on your emotions.
100%. That's a huge part of marketing is you got to you can't just make it about the product if you're going to sell it. You have to make it about their life,
Yeah. The ritual experience.
It's like your dad's not going to see you without McDonald's. I'm sorry.
This freaking guy. All right. Like a single dad that shows up just before 11 at McDonald's on a Saturday morning with his kids.
Yeah, by the way, I got to use the bathroom. I'll be right back.
All right, fair enough. I'll see you in a second. Kurt, how are you?
We'll take it from here. I'm doing phantasmal. It's really something. Really something being alive and experiencing things. It's something.
It's a thing. It's not nothing.
It's something. It's something. Let me tell you.
What have you been? Is that in relation to an experience that you've had recently, or do you like? Because sometimes I'll do that. I'll just stare at my hand and I'll be like, "This is crazy that I can look at this. I can do that. I can do the other way. I can, how crazy is that? Like right now, I'm gonna close my eyes. How am I still doing that? That's isn't that amazing? It's amazing.
It's amazing what you can focus on when you're not working. No, I'm not a jab at you. I'm saying I was last night. It's weird having a regular person job, I guess. I feel like I connect with my entire generation in the sense of. Sorry, you're staring at my crotch. I'll try to.
I thought that was kind of what people liked, So I was is that your box? Is that your boxers? Did we just see your boxers there?
No, these are just regular shorts. I promise.
No, but the flannel I saw.
Yeah, I feel like I embody millennials in the fact that all of us went to college and none of us have decent jobs. It's very, very weird. But I mean, it seems like it makes the most sense to have
something that pays you the most money because benefits don't exist anymore. So it's like everybody's just in this like really kind of thunderdome of like, oh, we just need to grab as much money as we possibly can while the world is falling apart. It feels weird. And so like last night, we always have like a special on Tuesday, where it's actually pretty decent, where you can get, 2 really good pizzas where you get like $15 off because it's like a free cheese pizza, but we've had like such an influx of traffic on those nights where it's just been like absolute hell and like nobody's scheduled. And we call people in and they don't get a bonus for getting called in or anything. It's like that's very rare to get people that will come in out of the goodness of their heart for $11 an hour. You just don't see that anywhere. And so it's one of those things where it's a mom and pop shop that is kind of like endearing in that it can have things like that, but it's also like when you get people that do that, it warps your perception of reality of like that's not the real labor market. It's like you don't realize how fortunate it is to have something like that, because that it's one of the few areas where capitalism doesn't apply. But you almost, from a worker standpoint, you almost wish that the free market did apply to the labor market, because if it did, people would be compensated for doing specific things, which often they're not. Like the Pareto if the Pareto principle operated in the real world of capitalism, all that money would shuffle to the people that are doing half the work. But the Pareto principle proves that capitalism doesn't actually exist in the labor force. So yeah, I think that's one that we overlook a lot of things about society. And I honestly did. Andreas introduced me to the Church of SubGenius. Yeah, I didn't know. I read nothing.
You didn't know you were a subgenius. You didn't know, yeah, but you are.
Well,
yeah.
You've been using that symbolism of Bob Dobbs for years, and I never.
I'm the free incarnation of Bob Dobbs.
You
can get all of your slack 3 times your slack or your money back.
We're all reincarnations of Bob Dobbs.
The greatest salesman who ever lived.
The greatest.
It's true.
Salesman.
Like Bob Dobbs actually.
Billy Mays.
Elevator. Billy Mays is incredible too. No, but Bob Dobbs was in an elevator. This is a myth, but it's a legend. He was in an elevator, I think, in Kansas City with L. Ron Hubbard, and he shook his hand. And ever since then, he had the power to sell snow to Eskimos in 52 different flavors, right? And just that's the truth of life, really, is like, can you sell and can you get people to buy something that they don't need, right? Or can you help people buy something they need that they wouldn't otherwise purchase, which is also, I think, more powerful. But yeah. What were you thinking about Bob Dobbs? That's awesome. Or SubGenius. I'm glad that you welcome to X Day.
So Bob Dobbs is a totally fictional character, right? Yeah,
sort of. I mean, aren't you kind of a fictional? Aren't I kind of a fictional character? Like, what is that? Yeah, I mean, like, yeah. Bob Dobbs is. I think Robert Anton Wilson might be Bob Dobbs. You could say.
I think there is a place for like good salespeople, like if like in certain markets where you really do need like a specialist mindset for a certain product. And the idea is, if your product is good enough and you just have extra specialists, have them like sell the product to people who need it, like car salesmen. Now they're scumbags, but at one point they used to be guys that like knew the cars to be able to explain to you and ask you, it's like, what do you need a car for? I think even nowadays a good car salesman will like ask you, it's like, well, what do you need a car for? Like, what are you going to use it for? Maybe that's too much for a consumer who just can't be bothered to answer more than yes or no. But I think a good salesperson could like meet the needs of their customers.
Bob Dobbs.
Yeah.
Robert Anton Wilson was a brilliant man. Let's start with that. But he was also an editor for Playboy, and he did the conspiracy theory section at the back of the magazine, for the articles. And at one point he said, send in, people who read Playboy, send in all the craziest conspiracies that you believe in or that you've ever heard of, rather. And he compiled a book called the Illuminatus Trilogy. He compiled 3 books called the Illuminatus Trilogy. He also had a lot of other books after that. But let's go to the Illuminatus Trilogy. And he said, hey, this is just a book basically created of all of these conspiracy theories that I had sent into me that I learned about for over 10 years, working at Playboy, and some of these are completely crazy.
That's awesome.
And some of them are probably true, but who knows which ones are which. And that, just saying it like that, made sure that he wasn't killed for pointing out. I mean, more and more, the older I get, the more sure I am that a lot of these theories that I used to think weren't true are the closest thing to truth that exists, right? So
yeah, no, it sounds ridiculous, but I get you. I get what you're saying.
But there's definitely something there where you're like, you manifest an effigy. And so Bob Dobbs is, J.R. Bob Dobbs is the effigy in a lot of ways that was created around this this idea. And so the religion, we all needed a religion. You've got the Church of Discordia, and then you had, which is the worship of Eris, and the Eris and Sophia are very similar concepts in and of themselves. And you could say that Robert Anton Wilson was a Discordian, right? And there's, let's see, Carrie Wendell Thornley, right? Carrie Wendell Thornley from the Church of Discordia, Lord Omar. He was actually interviewed during the JFK assassination trials, wondering about his relationship with a lot of people, Jack Rubin, but particularly with, the Lee Harvey Oswald. And there was about 19 minutes of the JFK trial, which goes into Discordianism, right? And like their depth of understanding of what it means to worship chaos and what it means to have kind of a chaotic alternative to wisdom, right? Because when we think of Sophia and Eris, well, they're going to be like, okay, so really? Who am I going to blame for that? That's my own fault for sure. But there's the goddess of wisdom, and then there's the goddess of chaos. And so let me fix my safe search. Oh my God. And remember that an hour and 11 minutes have to go back and like fix this internet thing. But goddess. Never type goddess into an unfiltered search bar. Eris, goddess. Okay, so goddess of Eris. So you think about the fruit of knowledge, right? And so this idea that Eve consumed from the serpent the fruit of knowledge, and that the son Cain is the half brother of Abel, because Eve had a relationship with the seraph, right? With this like Shaitan, Lucifer kind of character, if it's the serpent. And so the reptilian spawn of Earth have the mark of Cain, right? That this is the half brother, the half son, not Adam's son, right? Lucifer's son, but Eve's son still. And Eris has this golden fruit of discord, which causes chaos and is this alternative to maybe an alternative narrative about the fruit of knowledge, right? The fruit of knowledge causes confusion, and sows discord amongst the people. But then we think about the goddess Sophia, and this is where philosophy comes from. So often people think it's a choice. Is it a choice to focus on wisdom, right? Because wisdom and philosophy, Sophia is wisdom, but love of wisdom means also a love of chaos and a love of Discordianism. And I think this is kind of the Janus of femininity, that there's the two faces of femininity, that we think of femininity as singularly violence. Femininity is violence, but also, this is why, I mean, Minerva, for instance, right? The goddess of wisdom is also a goddess of warfare, right? So I'm not just saying that as a chauvinist or something. Like, it's just, if you go back to a historical context, femininity is often like female goddesses are constantly warheads, right? It's really war goddesses for most cultures are war deities for most cultures are goddesses, right? But also it's that they're both wisdom and chaos. It's not that it's Sophia or Eris. It's that Sophia and Eris are two sides of femininity. And I think that's, I mean, we think of women as being extremely wise, but also there's, the joke that women can be crazy or chaotic. I think it's probably true about men too. But we think of this idea of femininity associated with wisdom or associated with insanity or emotional irrationality, irrational absurdism, like these kinds of things that we kind of associate with femininity, right? So I don't know. That's kind of the origin point for the search for Slack. And so the SubGenius are realizing, hey, what are we struggling for? Are we struggling for self-realization? Aren't we already who we are? And is the goal to establish some sort of like working state on Earth? I mean, don't we already have that? So like, what is Zion? What is this return to Zion? So January 2000 was supposed to be Slack Day, right? X Day. And X Day is the day where work is abolished, essentially, and that we reach this singularity. And of course, people have talked about how 2000 isn't really 2000 because of the phantom time hypothesis and this change of scheduling of the calendar, that 2012 or something like that would lead to this kind of collapse of the working state and the beginning of Slack.
I'm trying to think what I'd do on Slack Day. What am I going to do on my first Slack Day ever?
Yeah, it's a good question. Hey, look, Vince, what do you know about work? Bob Dobbs and Vincent?
We're free.
Bob Dobbs?
Yeah, we're about this, the SubGenius.
Oh, I always know how to get Andreas to go on a rant. Good job, Andreas.
I'm sorry, that's my fault. But you wanted to talk. You recently kind of found out about the Church of SubGenius, right? So like that's kind of why we were bringing it up.
Yeah, no, I wasn't faulting you. I was like, ha, gotcha. No,
So Slack Day would be more like, oh, I'm sorry, Slack Day, just to reiterate, is more like V-Day, right? Like the end of World War II. It's like the war is over. We could finally live. So is that?
Yeah, that definitely seems to be the biggest point of the satire of the whole thing. I only listen to like
I would believe that it's funny because I think that most other religions are far more of a satire, and that this is probably the closest thing to truth, right? But that's me.
But like, no, it's like what's funny about, the Liberation Day, essentially, none of us have to work anymore. It's like so unfathomable in our society. Like, what? No one has to work anymore? It's like so ingrained in the culture, and like we have such a hopelessness about our situation, and it's a self-induced hopelessness about like, well, we're just going to work forever. We're all going to work for Mr. Krabs, and like someday, in like Mr. Krabs, we know him, he will never have enough money. That's the whole idea of the character, is like Mr. Krabs will never have enough money to make him satiated or satisfied. And that's what's funny about the whole situation. So like my solution, just to get it back on the micro level and make everything about me, my solution to like the chaos of like the workplace scenario, I called a staff meeting. I was like, you know what would solve all this chaos? Let's just have a staff meeting. And it's not actually going to solve anything. It's just I'm milking that office space culture of like, well, if you just churn the wheels of the machine, it's like you disperse the blame against everything and against everyone. And so it's a survival mechanism that doesn't actually achieve anything, but it's like, oh, let's get together as a tribe, and like all these meetings will be productive. And so it's like, I don't know. I think you can take the whole Kafka thing and work it to your favor, but it's also kind of a joke because like restaurants don't actually benefit that much from bureaucracy, but using bureaucracy can be a way of protecting yourself in a way. Maybe that's indulging way too much in the machine. I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't mean to actually. No one wants to talk about work, and that's like just the other thing. Like even if I'm talking about work, it's like I feel like it's so stressful on the audience. It's like
why? It depends. It depends on who I'm talking about work to. Like with you, I wouldn't mind, but some people are just like there's no solutions for them. They're just giving you problems, and then they're like,
yeah. Sorry, I'm just giving you problems. No. This is relevant. So like I think people still, like, it wasn't just a fad. People still like people like Byung-Chul Han. And I think this comes back to a lot of his statements about, our issue with working culture. And he's like, it's much more fulfilling to just, think about building your own escape hatch to all the problems that we've created for everyone. And so it's like, what is this escape hatch? And I'm kind of with him. It's like, well, it's very tempting to get into that line of thought, of how do I just build a golden parachute for myself so I don't have to do this shit? What country do I need to escape to that makes all this, less stupid? And that is important. I think it's actually productive to think about that to a degree, but I think you have to contrast that with like the whole message of Albert Camus. He said, well, to what degree is your own escape hatch, the idea of an escape hatch in your mind that you're building, how does that contrast with lucidity? How does that contrast with not seeing, the human condition with full clarity of like, well, maybe no matter where you escape to, you're going to experience, just like this one world problem that we're having. And
Well,
like,
what's that they say about chop wood, carry water?
Yeah. Well,
explain that. I'm totally oblivious to chop wood, carry water.
I mean, what greater golden parachute in existence is there than quote unquote enlightenment? And it is said that even after reaching quote unquote enlightenment as an individual, guess what? You're still going to have to chop wood. You're still going to have to carry water,
like there's a mentality about work that exists that is work is fun. Like I know some people who actually have fun working. They enjoy their jobs, and yeah, it comes at a price, of course, but the alternative also comes at a price. The do nothing culture comes at a great price. And so the idea, being before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water; after enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. And that is part of loving fate. That is part of loving the situation that you're in, as opposed to wishing that you had a parachute, because life is the greatest gift, as
Embrace
opposed to
the
trying to escape. It's like, you spend your time trying to escape the matrix, and like, is that the point? Maybe it is, but are we trapped, or is the trap in our own minds?
Right. And there's a difference between a job and work, right?
Yes,
like
I was just going to say that. Fuck.
Yeah.
Biblically, job is Job. Biblically, a job is being Job. It's the archetype of God and the devil, who like don't really care about you except for what you do for them. Clearly Lucifer doesn't care about you, and so a lot of people will go to Lucifer in Satanism in hopes of self-realization to become the most powerful version of themselves they can get. But that's not because Lucifer is like trying to help you become the most powerful person you can be. It's usually like kind of a feudalistic capitalism where Lucifer gives you as little as possible for as much as you'll give them back, which is your soul. But the same thing for God, right? Because God is saying, I'm going to let you suffer in exchange for you worshiping me, which is a really weird trade. That's like, this is kind of what SubGenius talks about, like Jehovah One, this idea that your life is a gambling like agreement between God and the devil. It's a bargain between God and the devil that you didn't make, and you're suffering. That's a job. That's what Job goes through. God kills, with Lucifer, allowing Lucifer to, all of Job's family and destroys all of his property, and just sees if he'll reject God, right? That's a weird thing, what a job is. I think that's often when I know people that have a job, that's kind of Kurt, how it sounds to me sometimes, how you feel. You feel like your education was stolen from you, like your livelihood was stolen from you, your dream was stolen from you. You have this, musical aspirations, like this is stolen from you by God and the devil, right? And that's not what work is. And work is like ecclesiastical. And I think probably my favorite book from the Bible, is super short, right, is Ecclesiastes. And Ecclesiastes, you got Proverbs and you got the Wisdom of Solomon, and these are all books about Sophia. But I think Ecclesiastes is more clearly about Eris and Sophia at the same time, about the chaos of everything. It's like this guy who's his king, who wished for wisdom, so that because he's like, oh my God, I got to take care of these people. And so he makes a wish upon a star, and he wishes not for money, not for fame, not for glory, but wisdom, so that he can help know what's right to do in this. He's been given this responsibility of taking care of his people. He wishes for wisdom to know what to do in that circumstance. And God gives him wisdom to be the greatest, most wisest king ever. At that point, if you have wisdom, then you have responsibility over other people. Also gives him gold and money and fame and everything else, because all that comes with responsibility, which I think is something we learn. The more responsibility you have, the more it makes sense for you to be held accountable for all sorts of material I mean, I want to say wealth, but again, it's more obligation. More wealth is more obligation. So Solomon says, like, hey, I was a king, I was a rock star. I'm paraphrasing here, but I did a lot of crazy stuff with my life, you know, and I've seen a lot of things. I've been a lot of places. I've met a lot of people, and you know, not much of that is worth anything. Not much of that makes me a better man than you, or makes me happy at all. I'm not happy because I've been seeing the sunset. You know, like it's not that I've had an existential ride that you can't compare to. It's so much more what I've experienced. I've had sex with so many more men, women, and beasts of the field. I'm a rock star. That's basically the way it comes off. And in that exchange, I mean, literally, Solomon ends up becoming converted into a beast, a wild beast, and he's a beast of the field. He's like, it's the crazy things this man's been through. But he says, of all of my experiences, what I've learned essentially is like the most valuable thing, the most joy that I've ever found, the most joy that anyone I think can ever find, at least what is good. The only thing that I can confirm is good is for people to enjoy the fruits of their labor, right? To eat and drink and enjoy their labor, the fruits of their labor under the sun during the short life that God has given them, and to accept that life, right? I think that's maybe what work even supposedly means. And a lot of work comes back even, you know, when you think about the first primordial idea of work, you're talking about Adam and Eve again. And so they've made this major mistake. They're in trouble, and God doesn't punish them. They punish themselves, right? They no longer can just appreciate the bliss of being here now in the Garden of Eden. So with this fruit of knowledge, what does God say? God says, you will work hard. You know, you should work.
Well, with this fruit of knowledge, it's like, fuck, we got a mortgage? Damn, we got taxes, we got bills. Oh my God, I got to do all sorts of evil shit just to survive, just to pay off this mortgage.
And you're killing animals, you're killing life, and you're praying about it. I think I'm sorry that this is where I'm at with that, but it's all work. You know, you're toiling and stress and childbirth. Even the creation of life for women is a suffering thing. It's painful. It's not as painful for some animals to have a baby, which is weird, right? Like you think like a horse giving birth, that's got to be like the most painful experience possible. But they seem to have less pain. A horse giving birth to a giant horse is less painful, it seems, to a horse, of course, than to a human. Like humans go through so much suffering to bring life into the world, and suffering to get out of the world through suffering in life. So it's like a medicine. Work is a medicine. It's like, here's the best thing I can provide you that will help you, is you can now work, and work will set you free. I can't say that in German.
I mean, I did say practice is the goal, right? I mean, I don't get paid to do martial arts. It's work. It's nothing. It's work in its purest form, work for its own sake. And yeah, I agree. It led to a lot of things like liberating myself from. For example, I put more time into work. Suddenly I'm more free from like drinking. You know, suddenly I'm more free from doing like bad shit I would have done probably if I were more idle. You know, stuff that my friends would innocently invite me to. It's like, yo, let's go clubbing. Yo, I got a gram of Molly from the Netherlands. Yo, it's going to be a great time. And it's like shit like that. It's like, you know, because of work, it kind of freed me from that, which would have inevitably led to suffering, like stealing happiness from tomorrow type shit.
Sure, but you can do Molly when you're ready.
Yeah, I know. I've had my fun with that stuff.
Do you know, if it calls to you, like when you're not at a club,
you know what I'm
when
talking
you're
about?
not going out to party, when you're
this
you
is
know,
where I say.
The thing is, what I'm saying is, when you have discipline, is the point where you can actually take these things with discipline.
I know, but this is where I say it's like, yeah, I'll do it when I have time, but man, I'm too busy with the martial arts training, and you know.
Yeah, but that's when actual celebration becomes important. You know, like maybe once a year or once every few years.
Oh, dude,
when you actually have that buildup of like, I need a release, you know, instead of just releasing every weekend or something.
Dude, every week I get a release. It's on Wednesdays around this time with Andreas and friends. I smoke
you
drink a bunch of caffeine.
You smoke your stuff, you know. Some people would say that weed takes away from, but I think it really depends on the person. Like some people, like, you know, if you can use a drug as an augmenter, then like, you know, it's like using good food as an augmenter. Yeah, you could eat shit or you could eat good food, but like you still have to eat once in a while, you know.
Mm-hmm. True.
There was breatharians where I come from. Breatharians used to like stare at the sun and try to like live off the breath, and they wouldn't eat. You know what I'm talking about?
Prana.
religious group. Prana.
Prana,
They wouldn't
yeah.
eat food. But then the leader of the Breatharians was found at the McDonald's by the Highway 1 in Santa Cruz. And that kind of screwed up his whole Breatharian cult.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
That's
And
the
he was
problem.
like, he said, like, I wasn't doing it for the nutrition. It's McDonald's. Obviously, this wasn't for health reasons. I wasn't doing this because I needed
Oh.
to. I did this because I liked the taste. You know, I'm still a Breatharian. Like I was proving that point by eating McDonald's. I was like, I like that. It's a good argument.
Yeah, I'm eating garbage. There's no, come on.
It's good.
No,
mean,
but you know, I agree with you about work. Work is, you know, I've always seen work as a sort of curse because I had a dream, and I still had that dream, you know. But when you're disciplined and you know how to work, you can find more time to do those things without seeing having a job as a strain on your psyche. Like that's the major hurdle in creation. It's that you seem to be harmed by your environment and it hinders your inner peace. So you can't produce the thing you're trying to produce. But if you have inner peace, then your outer peace is going to be taken care of, basically. So reach enlightenment and enjoy work, basically. You're going to find so much you need.
Yeah. But another, you know, like it's almost like we're built to kind of work. God loves productive people.
Of course. But, you know, I think everything has a function, and the bohemian is necessary. The slacker is part of the sort of balance of the universe in a way. You know, like there's people who are there just to observe, just to watch. And like that's their role, you know, and we can't deny them that. We can be like, oh, you should get a job and blah, blah, blah. They won't. They just won't. And then we'll be like, oh, this isn't how it should be, but it is how it is. So clearly it is how it should be. And so that's it, you know. Sometimes you just need a life, one whole life of just slacking, and then your next reincarnation, you turn into a beast of burden again, you know.
That's basically saying like you can't really judge a person by how they live at all either way. What you can do though is judge them by how much they complain, whether they're slackers and unemployed or whether they're overworked, like working elitists.
You know,
like they could complain all day about it.
When we say judging, we're talking relative, right? We're going like okay, you stay away from me. I don't want you around me because we're incompatible, and what you valued, I don't value. We can judge their value systems if we want, but we're judging them based on our own value systems, and that's fine. We're our own ecosystem. They're part of their weird slacker ecosystem, and then we can judge them as incompatible with us. But beyond that, like, what are we gonna do? Like, hey, you guys are neats. Like, yeah, they have culture too. They help each other. They have love. Like it's like any community. There's a shining of God through it somewhere.
Of course. Yeah.
Well, it seems like there's two. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Well, I mean, like, it's like there are two different paths that we just talked about here. So, like, one is this idea that life is fleeting, vanity of vanities, death comes with us all, and that we should work because from work we get more reward because we can say we chose to do more, and that's a major thing. That's kind of in determinism, even like so. People used to believe in God, and then there was a lot of atheists, but even the atheists come back to quantum mechanics and determinism, physics, and the divine law, like the law of an order of law. And so, you know, I mean, it's whether you believe in God's law or the law of nature, or however you want to do this, you know, you're stuck in a situation where like you're not defined by your choices as much as you want to be. So, I mean, your computer's fan is a little loud, but no worries. If you got your choices as what your definition is, a lot of people think, you know, hey, that's who you are. You are what choices you made. And I don't know if that's completely accurate because your choices, you know, free will, even these are based still on the circumstances that made you, that your parents were involved in. There's no self-made man, no person's an island. You know, it's the practice you can do is based on what came before you that made it possible for you to exist. This is what the shrine and the Shintoist, you know, family shrine has to do with, like all that came before you made it possible for you to exist. So, you know, it's not true that you are your choices. You can be defined by other things that aren't your choices. I can define you by your astrology if I wanted to. You know, I don't have to care about what choices you make. I could just care about what your parents named you, right? Like it's true that you can do that, but you can find your own personal reward in this idea that your own choices, you made them, and if you didn't make them, you wouldn't be able to experience the fruits of your labor. So that's the ecclesiastical pursuit. But the opposite is the subgenius, this idea that life is absurd and short, and that work is essentially exhausting, soul killing. Subgenius would say that work is usually soul killing, and it's usually a tool. It's a tool of a conspiracy, a capitalist conspiracy, like Kurt's brought up. Yeah, and that work is only valuable if it produces slack. Like if all work ever had a meaning in subgenius, it was so that we could come to a point where we would stop it, right? That eventually work ends. And I think it's interesting because these are diametrically opposed, more than Satanism and Christianity are opposed, because these are really, in a lot of levels, those are more, Satanism and Christianity are far more similar ideas than slack and ecclesiastical thinking. Subgenius thinking is much more at odds with the Judeo-Christian value. And I don't know, I guess I would say that mainly because I was wondering about Kurt, because Kurt's my grounded subgenius. You know, he's the guy who hates the Jobism that he's been indentured into his dharma, right? And what are you looking for? Are you looking for a situation where you're happy and proud of this accomplishment? You put all this time and effort and work into making music that actually helps people? Or are you looking forward to just not being a slave to some sort of capitalist bullshit, and you're able to finally just sit on a beach in Argentina or in Japan or in California? Or like, where's the goal to you?
Hey, thanks for the question. All right. It's like everybody's always reminded of Sisyphus. You know, you gotta picture Sisyphus happy. And of course, sorry, I've been not reading. I've been listening to way too much content on Albert Camus. But honestly, I think that shows you know,
accepted.
Yeah, how great, how awesome it was. And of course, Camus, it was always the self-claim of like, hey, I'm trying to show you the world as it is. I'm not saying you should do something, but the famous line of like, mother died today, or was it yesterday? I can't remember. You know, it's like the whole point of that line was like, is there something deeply missing from your humanity if you get to the point where you're thinking that? Like, are you not seeing something that's right in front of you? And so this does relate to, you know, jobs or like what it means to work. And I think the problem we are facing at a societal level is we're not objectively looking at what is correctly ahead. The main sin that our parents were committing is the same sin that a lot of parents commit. It's like they were preparing us for a world that existed in the past and not the one that was coming. And you have to have empathy for them, you know, because like that's almost an inevitable mistake. How do you fully predict the future? And so the world that's coming is certainly not going to be it's not going to be predictable in any sense. And so it's hard to expect the whole traditional, you know, 9 to 5, work hard to be rewarding in the sense that it was in the past. In the past, the reward from doing that 9 to 5, well, it was alluring you into the trap of consumerism. And at the very least, I guess you would get rewarded essentially with more consumerism. Like you would get benefits that would secure, you know, your health insurance. You would get the nice car. You would get the house on a single person income. At least you would get some sort of materialistic benefit, if materialism is a good thing, I guess. But now it's like you're not even getting the materialist return on that. And so what is there an immaterial return on the current job structure? And the answer is too complicated to say just yes or no, but I would say it's starting to lean towards majority no. Like what are the rewards from working besides just surviving? And well, in California you can go be homeless and survive, so like what's the point? You know. So what is I guess if there's any advice to be taken from this whole thing is like, yeah, you have to focus on personal fulfillment. And I think that whole idea of personal fulfillment is way too confusing to people. And as far as what that means in my personal life, well, it's like I just try to take one step ahead of me. I have no problem just bouncing around, meaningless jobs if it just ensures my survival. I'm fulfilled enough, and I've decided that life is fulfilling enough to where I don't care. I don't care about the labels of my job. I care enough that it's putting food in front of me, and I care enough that it's allowing me to do the hobbies that I do have, even if ultimately they're meaningless, whatever. And so I guess that's the main takeaway for me. Is like, well, whatever tomorrow brings, I'll be there.
Well, I think there's a fundamental level to this that could apply to at least most people, I think, and that is that none of us have to be alive, right? We only want to be. There's no law of nature that says any one of us have to be on this earth living and breathing. Any one of us could die, and guess what? The world would keep turning. The universe would still exist. Life would continue and move on. So we're here on this earth fundamentally because we want to be, not because we have to be. So I think that's something to consider when you make decisions based on like cost and gain from your decisions. We don't have to be alive. Just remember, there's no pressure. I know it could be morbid. You could take it that way, but I think it's liberating.
Or the other way around too. It's like you can die, but like other people wouldn't have the benefit of you. I think a lot of people don't provide the benefit that makes that rational anymore. But it used to be, I think, a lot of reasons why people kept themselves alive. It's like that weight of, should I keep feeding my family or should I provide them with my life insurance policy? That's such an Americanism from the 1960s, 80s that we experienced, even in the 90s, right? Like, I think I've known people whose fathers had to make that choice and didn't make the one that maybe was right.
Maybe. But that's where but like that take is kind of where the gratitude comes into play, right? Like knowing I don't have to be in this on this earth, but I am. I could opt out at any time, but once I lose it, I won't get it back. So for me, that's like a point of gratitude. That's like something to be thankful. And I think if you live based off of that, then you'll probably get better results, like on a material level even.
So here's my synthesis. Recognize that life is short. Life is absurd and short. Reject blind obedience to oppressive systems. Emphasize the present moment as the site of meaning. Celebrate authentic joy, even if fleeting. But where Ecclesiastes finds meaning in accepting one's lot and receiving joy as some divine grace, SubGenius demands a rebellious reclamation of joy from the oppressive systems.
Yeah. Yeah.
You should cheer up. You could meet a blind woman. That's what Alf did, right? Alf, the alien, his girlfriend's blind. He seems really happy with her.
That's what Ben Grimm's girlfriend is.
Yeah.
I think that everyone matters more than we're currently giving them credit for. The universe would continue after you died, but as you exist here now, you are meant to exist because you do. And so there's beauty to that, and there's grace to embracing that, to feeling that you do matter, no matter your shortcomings, no matter the boundaries that reality has placed around you, within the confines of where the universe has restricted you. You matter, and you are a significant piece of the puzzle that needs to exist, and that's why it does. If it didn't need to exist, it wouldn't. So while we're here, exist fully, live fully, and be grateful. Of course, be grateful. Gratitude is key.
Yeah. And just for fun, if you ever come across a major life decision, just flip a coin on it. Mess around with some quantum reality jumping.
Sure.
Heads, I move to South America. Tails, I stay with my family.
You got to flip bones. You got to do the I Ching, hexagrams all the time.
Yeah, that too. And you're basically creating two parallel realities. You're just going to be attuned to one of them.
Whoa. More than two parallel.
Yeah, you're right.
You're making like 3 per day.
Yep.
Hexagram tossing is pretty crazy, man. Like I try to pick a lot of my life has done that way. It depends. I used to use a coin a lot until it fell down a drain one
Why not
time.
dice?
Yeah,
Dice.
like flipping a coin was one thing, but dice is pretty good. Dice is already, I think, closer to I Ching. But now you can use, I think, ChatGPT or Grok or something. You can ask it to flip random to kind of simulate random bone flippings to create hexagrams.
Simulated randomness is really silly.
You think so? You think that simulating randomness is not really random?
It's just all RNG, right?
I mean, yeah, it's RNG. It's not random. It's programmed. Like you don't just.
Yeah, but what's is the resolution of randomness more true than that of our simulated reality?
Yeah. Look, if you flip that dice, you flip that dice. If the computer flips that dice, it's just programmed. And like, I'm not saying that there isn't some sort of like maybe possible real random number generators out there. It could exist, but most of the time when I'm presented with one, I'm like, yeah, clearly this is rigged. Like, it's so easy to rig.
But isn't our reality kind of rigged too? Like, what's the difference? I mean, because I feel like we talked about this earlier. Like,
yeah, well, it depends what we mean by rigged, right? Like a rigging system is a structure of how things are ordered. And yeah, our reality is rigged because it has rules and like laws of physics. So when we flip a dice, we're actually interacting with gravity, wind resistance, all that stuff. That makes it not fully random. But what does make it random, I guess, is that it's based on the chaos of not knowing. Like, you don't know how much force you're exerting when you throw the dice. You don't know what the outcome will truly be. While if it's programmed, the programmer can know because he programmed it.
Well, I mean, how much are things really programmed and like our reality? I think that's the thing. It's like the simultaneous existence of a digital reality that we've created versus an analog simulation or stimulation that we exist in. It's hard to say that an RNG it has less resolution or that an analog reality has a truer resolution. I mean, I think we're living in a simultaneously digital and analog reality.
I don't think that truer is the way to put it. What I'm saying is that when humans program something, it's easier to predict than when God programs them.
Okay, that's true. But you can, to a certain extent, program your own life experience, for example. I mean, to a certain extent, like certain things you can't.
But there's random factors that you can't factor in. But if you're
that's the thing is it doesn't feel random. So for me, like let's say you're flipping a coin, and just on a simple like.
Sorry, by random I meant just unknown variables that are.
I feel like a good digital RNG might be more consistent, which is what you're saying. Is that seems less random, but it might be more consistent in generating randomness than a human tossed dice or a coin even, because the way you do something might be less random because you might do this thing that causes the same, like I flip a coin in such a way at this point, I've done it so many times throughout my life that I can basically make it land on heads or make it land on tails because it's like, how you flip money and you hear how much money it is. I can feel how many flips are happening.
Yeah, it's like throwing a knife and knowing that it'll come out at the knife end. So
I don't know if I feel like my reality is more random than RNG. I feel like
the thing is, maybe we can learn to read that randomness pattern better, like as we go. So it's not. I mean, random. I don't even believe in random really, but I guess
that's the other thing. In analog reality, it's all deterministic.
I guess what I'm saying is, I prefer the pseudo randomness of the program of reality rather than some dude who programmed some computer.
No, this is also
I feel like I'm working more in God's channel when I'm using, tea leaves as opposed to like a computer that is just going to repeat exactly.
But not because of randomness. So in other words, you're less interested in the chaos and more in like the divine, which is fair. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But I think maybe there is more the RNG, the digital reality might with a seeded number sequence produce something more predictably random, which is a weird oxymoronic term, but
sure. No, I get what you're saying but there's a distinction between randomness and chaos to be made because like chaos becomes ordered when we put light on it, when we observe it, when we name it, when we create structure, while randomness like you said, like you can have it more, you can make it more consistently random rather than like being true chaos, which is like you out of chaos you could make order, but you can't make RNG make order, you know.
Usually, I think the root question is like, is reality downstream from consciousness, or is it the other way around? Is consciousness downstream from reality?
I think it might be a loop, you know. We might be looping. As above, so below. Like...
But as for the individual, you know, because like it's really expansion of like meta perspective, not like physical perspective, like of seeing more ground, but like seeing more of your meta self as opposed to just your body or your brain or just your soul, and then a more holistic view of the self. And I think it's like, I think about what really holds us off, like what blocks that, what shrinks our perspective and our meta narrative. And I think it's things like material needs are a big one. Like if I'm starving or if I'm scared for my life, the last thing I'm going to be thinking about is like my place in the universe, you know? So I think that's one thing, like your Maslow's hierarchy. The next is like a moment of a place of meaning. And then you also build up karma, right? Like you have regrets, you have things that you're ashamed of, that you're guilty of maybe. And then those things you have to get over, and certain things you just hate and not knowing why you hate it, and get over that, and insecurities. And then you are gifted with, I guess, what they call, quote unquote, the ascension or the meta perspective, which is like, well, I'm good. You know, like I'm good. Like whether I die right now, it's like, what could I have done about it? Like, I'm chill. What do you need? Like, what are you about? Like, how did you get here? You know, and that's when you start getting like that. Maybe to call it empathy. I don't know.
Can you flow between both without losing your soul to either? Yeah.
Well, yeah, if you have like a physical practice to ground you, yeah.
Kurt, you're my physical practice to ground. That sounded super erotic. I'm sorry, bro.
No. I'll say it would really be awesome if Germany was like on the other side of the hemisphere, other side of the equator. Yeah, I would love. So like right now, like big announcement. I'm moving in with Andreas. We just have to. Yeah, we have to hash out.
You just announced it to me too. It's great.
Oh, okay. I was jealous for a second. I was like,
when's the wedding?
Chris could come too. And yeah, Vince, you're definitely invited. You can live on the roof.
The nice part is, so like,
I'll make a farm up there.
We'll start our own PMC.
All right. So, long story short, if you're like in a student loan crisis right now, I think according to current law, like say you get like a lump sum of money, you theoretically could just kind of sit on it for a long time. If you don't have verifiable income, then you can like basically stay in forbearance forever. And if you're in forbearance, they won't like dock your bank accounts or anything like that. So like expatting might be a viable option for a lot of people. Like if you're in a ton of student loan debt, and that's why, yeah, just escape and keep re-upping, or you know,
like Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Yo, this girl I hooked up with did exactly that. Like she went to Drexel, I think, and she went there to study Japanese, knowing full well she's gonna move to Japan, start a life there, and just completely ditch on her student loans here. And I was like, hey, if you know what you want, you know what you want.
Yeah. I mean, there's even like I read an article about sorry to bring up Andrew Tate, but
it's okay.
There's several countries that essentially sell citizenship. They sell citizenship, and also some of them, from what I know, they sell completely different identities for like lump sums. Like, hey, we're broke. Can you give us money? And it's like upwards of like $100,000.
I realize I actually hate Pedro Pascal more than Andrew Tate, and that kind of helped me sleep at night. So go ahead.
Yeah, I also kind of hate that guy. He rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, right. And like, where did he touch you kind of way? But yeah, sorry, Kurt.
No, it's okay. But no, all of this is culminating. It's like, it's nice to know that there's always a kill switch. If you just had enough, there's a kill switch on the whole thing. And it's like, I don't know, you citizens of any place on the entire planet, none of us owe anybody anything. It's like we're not really hooked up. That's the nice part, is like we're not really hooked up to a mob or anything. Most of us aren't. anyway. Like a lot of us can. The system is so anonymous that you can basically ditch it at any time, and it's like, well, how badly is it going to try to suck you back in? Like I've had friends. I had a friend that was a missionary in Bolivia, and his problem was like he went to Bolivia, and it wasn't that the U.S. was trying to suck him back in. It's like when he tried to return from Bolivia, is like the Bolivian government was like so up in arms that Bolivia was giving them problems. Like they kept them in Bolivia for another 2 weeks. So your problem might not be that America's trying to keep you sucked in. Is like once you escape other places, will they try to keep you sucked in? So, you know, I think the CIA, if they're listening right now, they'll be like, yeah, that's our boy. Good job.
Bolivian prisons are cool up until they like, you know, other criminals eat your food, you know.
Yeah, no, I always say like I just like being an American, man. Like I don't know what else to say. Like this country's cool to me. Maybe I may not know what it's like to live elsewhere.
Being an American outside of America, it's weird. Like I get an American, it's kind of like I get critical of America a lot more because I want it to be more different or something. And then, but you go other places, and I'll be like in Germany, like I'll say something, and someone's like, "You can't say that in this country. That's illegal here." And I'll be like, "I'm an American. I can say whatever I want, and I'm American." Like there's a nice feeling that kind of arises where you're like, you know, actually, everywhere else isn't. Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it like that, but like, you know, we're better than other people here. You know what I'm saying?
One thing I like recently about the events that transpired in America is growing up, I was always conditioned to believe that we're perfect. And that was kind of annoying to me because it always felt like a sham. Then as an adult, it was all just confirmed and I felt really vindicated. And that made me warm up to the country. Like America just became suddenly very endearing. Like, we do have flaws and we should work on it. It's like a sense of purpose, but it's like a lot of people are just not down with that. And it is what it is.
Well, like wabi sabi though, also like some of the flaws make us better people, and I like often you meet somebody and they say, you know what, those other people are so much worse than us. I love that experience. Like so, you talk to the Jews, and a lot of people hate the Jews around the world. I don't know if you heard this, you know, but like the Jews, I have a lot of Jewish friends, and so then the Jews they'll hate the Persians, right? Or the Persians will hate the Jews, like, and then you go like, oh, you know, the Persians, like they're the way the Persians are, you know, like they have, like, what about the Persians, you know? And then they're like, oh, well, they have, you know, only condiments in their refrigerators, or they have big screen TVs and no furniture, or their furniture is always covered in plastic or something like that. Then you meet some Persians and they invite you to their house. They're super nice. And like, yeah, but you got to be careful about the Turks, right? The Germans will, you know, okay, let's meet the Turks. What are the Turks like? And I meet the Turks and they're super nice, hyper educated. Like when I was in France, right? Everyone told me that the French were going to be the meanest, worst people. The French were super nice to me. And then they said, be careful, go to Paris. You know, the Parisians, they're going to be bad, right? It's kind of like they say about New Yorkers or something like that. New Yorkers are super nice to me. Parisians super nice to me. And then like, but sometimes I couldn't speak French right. The Arabs, they're like, careful about the Arabs. Well, the Arabs would speak German, French, English, Arabic, whatever language. So they're very nice to me. They're religiously nice, I would even say. So not everyone's always going to be like the best representative of their people, but a lot of people will. A lot of people are trying to be the best they can be, especially if they're in a bad situation. And their families, right? They try to represent their families well, like their mothers. They love their mothers, right?
Wait. So what was that closing statement? Is everyone loves their mothers?
Well, everyone's trying to do right, and the mother is kind of the one that makes people feel it's like the Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder is your mom, basically.
Not everyone loves their mothers.
No,
I think that's the other thing. And not everyone's mother loves them. You know, I think that's the other thing. Like there's a lot of suffering in the craziest of ways. And I think the Mark of Cain thing, for sure. Like there's not everyone, like Adam and Eve are not in a stable marriage, you know, and that serpent definitely got in there. And Cain and Abel are half brothers. Like I think that's like a pretty common belief structure that exists for a lot of different like there's occulted religions that really focus
Loki and Thor, you know, it's the same thing. The trickster versus the honorable fighter or whatever. The horny.
Yeah, but and I kind of like where Disney went with that. I don't think that the trickster is necessarily wrong. I don't think that the honorable fighter is fighting. He maybe pretentious that he thinks he's honorable.
Even the old stories are more complex than like the way that people think of good and evil and like devil or versus devil versus angel. You know, like Thor was a flawed character from the get-go, and rightfully. Oh, I want to take a moment though, since we're mentioning this, to shit on the Netflix Ragnarok show, just because fuck
Which one? Which show?
the Ragnarok show on Netflix. It is the shittiest end to any show I've ever seen ever. It takes everything away from itself. And I fear for Norway. I truly fear for Norway. If this is how it represents itself, I fear for Norway.
By the way, The Last Kingdom, I've been on a binge watch of The Last Kingdom. It's actually really good in my opinion. I've loved it so far.
Is that the one with the ponytail Saxon?
Essentially, yes.
Oh, I did see this.
Yeah, I saw this.
All right, just watch out. I'm very fearful of the ending of Netflix shows, so be careful.
Yeah.
So this one was I think from this is an English-made show. I don't think it was originally on Netflix, but I could be wrong about that. But no, I think it could be up there with like some really good medieval dramas. And the thing is, I don't think it was promoted very much early on, and it's one of those that you view it in hindsight and you're like, wow, this is actually really good acting and a really good plot line. It's very good at being immersive. And it's at least semi-historical. So like you do actually like get to learn about some really neat things that were going on, you know, and like
I love stories about Danes and Saxons fucking killing each other in uncomfortable battlefields. Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you imagine how many dudes just drowned in mud, just from trampled in mud? That's a way to
crazy.
go, right?
And there's a lot of mud around here for sure. In the Saxony, and there's kind of it's nice and warm right now, but like you gotta imagine it's brown and gray, muddy and gray a lot of the time. So like whatever the Saxons were going through, for that like until they could pave this whole place with concrete, like dirty. You know, it's crazy because you think of Germans as being like relatively clean people, but clearly the Saxons, like that's a recent phenomenon. You know.
Yeah, cool era. Glad I was never born at that time. I'm glad I never saw it.
I don't know about what to say about the Norwegians, but I did see a video earlier today. I think it was belly flopping. Yeah, like in Norway. This was like a Norwegian belly flop competition. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, they're not sending their best. I gotta say. I have some Norwegian friends. They're all insane. Like they're like exceptionally brilliant, insane people. A lot of the ones I know, at least. They're not all Kevins and Chantels. I did meet, by the way, there's a stereotype over here that if you're a Saxon and your name is Kevin or Chantel, then you're probably undereducated. But like I've met some pretty nice, down to earth, I would say grounded Kevins, which I like, you know, and I haven't met a Chantel yet, but yeah, I feel like there's something. I mean, come on, what are you doing? What are you doing, Norway? What are you doing these crazy, painful belly flops and just come on, bro? Why are you doing that? Okay, all right.
Some of them are really good, like the salute.
They have a sense of like strong white guilt. Like they really have that cultural baggage of like they kind of hate themselves.
Well, on behalf of all people of color, white people, I forgive you. We forgive you.
Yeah, like
why is Norwegian move to Brazil? I think you have to go to Brazil if you're a smart Norwegian. You know,
Scandinavian black metal exists for a reason. You know, like all these countries seem so polite and so friendly and stuff, but then you look at their culture and like the counter culture, and they're expressing the suppressed part of it, basically, that is very in pain.
Smithoclast says Saxon tales were so good. Uthred is such a effing badass in the books. Well, all right. So nothing's meant to last. Some things aren't meant to last, at least. I think that's kind of the point.
Well, when one door closes, another door opens.
Oh, when the Lord closes a door, he opens a window. So the cat can come back in. That's nice.
That's good.
Act like you know 26 says, which is Raphael. Supposedly Kevin became a popular name in Germany due to Home Alone. That's interesting.
Oh man.
So Donald Trump.
Oh God. Yeah.
So good.
All right. Anyone have any closing statements? Kurt, do you have anything that you're thinking about?
All the time I'm thinking about it. No.
Fix your microphone.
Fix your microphone.
That's good. Now, thank you. You know, yeah. Ooh.
Hey, I hope you're all doing well. I hope you all do very well in building your own escape hatch. I hope you have all of your passports ready. Passport bros unite! All right, let's yeah. Hey, to what degree? I don't know. I like everything's just so freaking crazy. Everything is crazy out there, and it's hard to. If you have a moment of sanity, good for you. Good for you in this life. That's my send off. Bob Dobbs, quote unquote Bob Dobbs.
Slack. Right on. I wanted to say really quickly, like there was a concert I always wanted to go to. There's a festival. You know, I've been to a lot of Burning Mans and things. There's one called Kazantip. Kazantip was this beautiful 2 to 3 weeks in August that you could go to Crimea, and everyone had this, you know, visa that came. You had to, that was your ticket. Your ticket was a visa because it was like a country, you know, that they created, and it was this sort of weird Slavic expression of freedom that came after the collapse of the Soviet Union and represented their understanding of liberty and of self-expression and of slack, and kind of devolved into a sexual pool,
It's like Burning Man.
orgiastic, yeah, run by drug dealers and mafiosos with teenage girls. I mean, it's a really fascinating and interesting place to be. But it ended when Putin took over. It's like the one bad thing Putin ever did, right? I'm just kidding. But 2013 was like the Crimean Peninsula invasion. When Crimea was annexed by the Russian Federation, there was no more Kazantip. They still, there's no Russian expats all over the world that have their own thing, but like we said before, nothing. Some things are not made to last. You know, some things just they're not.
Yep.
Okay, what about you, Vincent? Oh wait, Kurt, you want to say something last?
No,
Hey, look,
someone.
Norway bringing in the 5. See, all right, represent Norway, legit. Thank you.
Yeah, someone discussed passport bros. No, if someone going to another country and having sex with a woman makes them a passport bro, it's like, well, I think that connotation, it's actually that's a little bit dehumanizing to people that just simply exist on different parts of the earth. You know, like why, like people are just sexual beings, right? And so, like,
A lot of them.
what
I think it's the bro
theoretically.
part.
It's the what? It's the
It's the bro part that's the problem.
yeah,
Passport is fine. Be a passport guy, you know. But the
Yeah.
bro, they're like,
bro. No, like yeah, it's kind of self contradiction if it's used as a pejorative. In some cases, it is used as a pejorative. But like, to what degree are we humanizing people from other countries? And so, like, if you're taking priority over people that exist in the U.S., well, you're a terrible globalist, I must say. But it's like, yeah, it's like labels are only have so much power, and like pejoratives have only so much power, to where it turns out that if things start to get used as pejoratives, it shows the hypocrisy of the people that make them pejoratives. Yeah, it's just really interesting, I guess. So that's why it's like I can jokingly say I'm a passport bro, and it's like, well, like
passport bros, and then there's fuck boys, and I think that's a little bit more what you're
passport
alleging to.
boys.
Fook boys, the Fook boys.
Vincent, what about you? Feels and thoughts, reflections, and philosophies.
I don't know. I've been sick for a week or so, so I'm like not maximum energy. So my mind.
Me too, man. I was having
mostly
kind of
brain
some
fog.
time. I hated it.
Do we have fucking COVID 25 or whatever it's called now?
If I did, I think, but I'm good now again. You know, luckily,
Yeah,
strong
it'll
enough
be
to-
69.
Yeah,
it'll be fine, but you know, just live life, be patient. Things
blow
will
your
come.
nose.
Don't forget to be, you know, to stop and enjoy the beauty, even when your head hurts and you're all congested.
This too shall pass.
This too
Right.
shall pass. Yeah, and they say that during the good times too. You know, be like, hey, this too shall pass, bro.
For sure, I do. Makes me very Slavic.
This
Chris.
too shall passport, bro.
This too shall passport, Fook boys. Yeah. Chris.
Yo, at this point in the show, I usually give my thanks to everyone, but this time I want to give the honor to Kurt. Kurt, can you give our thanks to the audience, please, for us?
Hi, audience. Thank you for watching. If you want to donate to all of our causes, well, I don't know if there's good links, but a terror risk. These are all our correct names. So if any of us have Patreons, go ahead and go over to those Patreons. Or in my case, you can check out music. Terror Risk has a podcast. Again, there's almost no such thing as monetary support in a post-capitalist society. But anything, we are beggars.
Until we get there, you know.
Yes, until we get there, until AI gives us universal basic income, it's like we're all just fucked. So we appreciate any support that goes our way, because otherwise it's like, well, we're just like you. We can't pay rent. Most of us can't. In the case of Andreas, people can't pay him rent. I'm just kidding. I don't.
But even if you don't have money, what Kurt really means to say is thank you for your time.
Yeah.
Hey,
and until then, you can live in my mind rent free. So.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to give me anything. It's okay. I love you anyways. I have everything. My richness is life.
I should say thank you again, though. The fact that I got supporters that come here and that 144 Still Dark Light sent this huge something to me that's really like honorable or appreciated, admirable. I don't know. I'm grateful. Grateful is the word I'm looking for. And let's bring it. Sending in the membership so other people can enjoy it. Like lucky guy. I'm thankful.
I'm thankful for all of you, and thank you for the audience. I don't say it often, but you guys are cool people. Stay cool.
You're probably awful for all I know. You're just on the other side of the screen, but yeah,
that's the spirit.
If you're in the comment section, you're probably decent. Otherwise, you're just horrible. You're just a robot to me.
Pacifist, right? All right, goodbye.
There's less